these are some of the non-technical books I would highly recommend to someone who is just starting their coding journey. Or they're not limiting to coding. Anything important you are starting or anything big you're starting, I would highly recommend to read those books. Especially if in your circumstances you don't have enough time. Maybe you have a day job, or maybe you need to go to school, or you have kids or a big family to take care of. These books have saved a lot of time for me and a lot of efforts from me. So I hope this will do the same for you. So let's get started. And the very first book here is Mindset. Uh, I bought this book I think in 2018, and the reason I bought it because there was this debate going on about leadership, whether leaders are made or leaders are born. So I found this book and I read few chapters and I bought it. I'll read a few lines of this book so that you can understand what inside it. So basically, they have divided this book in two topics: growth mindset and fixed mindset. So let's say, first of all, what is a growth mindset? The growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. Why look for friends or partners who will just shore up your self-esteem instead of ones who will also challenge you to grow up? And why seek out the tired and true instead of experience that will stretch you? The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it, even especially when it's not going well, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. When you're going to start anything new, you will have lots of challenges in the beginning. Let's say you're learning coding or you're learning front end, then you will need to do a lot of new technologies. Maybe you're struggling with CSS or maybe you're struggling with JavaScript. So how will you prepare yourself? So this book will give you some guidance. Most of the topics in this book is studying around children. So they grouped children in two categories. First category, children who shows a growth mindset, and then other with a fixed mindset. And they tracked their performance for a number of years. And they found the children who had the growth mindset did well in their career compared to one who has fixed mindset. So in fixed mindset, people usually don't challenge themselves. They don't have this belief that they can improve themselves. All they think about is you have this innate capability since the day you're born and you can't change it. So this is where these debates get interesting, especially if you study about the growth mindset, where people who didn't have that much knowledge or didn't have that much education, but they still did so well because they had this mindset where they were continuously pushing themselves. On the other hand, people who have, like, let's say a high IQ, but they didn't have this mindset, this growth mindset, but they didn't do well according to this book. So I think it's a pretty interesting read, and you'll get a lot of interesting insights. So yeah, so that was book number one. Okay, so the next book we have is Mastery by Robert Greene. It's another fascinating book by Robert. I have read his another book, Power. I think 48 Laws of Power, pretty interesting book too. But I especially bought this book because, so the way Robert teaches is he really believes that we have these capabilities inside us, but we don't know it. It's pretty similar to the mindset where the author pushes you to your limit. Same with the mastery. Let me find some good read for you. To attain mastery, you must adopt what we shall call resistance practice. The principle is simple. You go to the opposite direction of all your natural tendencies when it comes to practice. First, you resist the temptation to be nice to yourself. You become your own worst critic. You see your work as it through the eyes of others. You recognize your weaknesses, precisely the elements you are not good at. Those are the aspects you give precedence to in your practice. You find a kind of perverse pleasure in moving past the pain this might bring. In devising your own routine, you become as creative as possible. You invent exercises that work upon your weaknesses. You give yourself arbitrary deadlines to meet certain standards, constantly pushing yourself past perceived limits. In this way, you develop your own standard of excellence, generally higher than those of others. So it's pretty dense book. I mean, it's not like a bedtime reading, but it has a lot of examples, especially the very high achiever in our history, like Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Benjamin Franklin. So he studied their biographies and then concluded everything in this book. So highly recommended. Okay, this book I bought last year, Essentialism, and by far has the most impact on me. I would highly recommend this book. The reason is nowadays we in this world of social media where we have so many distractions, this book gives you some kind of direction. You can group people in two categories: journalist and specialist. I consider myself a journalist. A journalist is someone who have interest in a lot of things. For example, a journalist might be doing coding for living, but like reading books, and also like skiing, and also like cooking. So all these are different interests. On the other hand, maybe there is a specialist, someone who just like coding. They don't want to do anything else, so they are kind of specialists. They're specialist in one narrow domain. A journalist can have interest in a lot of domains, and they may not be like specialist on all the cases, but they are kind of average in all the areas. So I consider myself a journalist. But this book challenges my notion. So this book challenges you to narrow down the things you can do in your life. For example, Warren Buffett talks about the punch card technique, in which you put all your interests. Let's say you have 20 interests, you put on a punch card, and then you only select top 5, and then you throw the rest 15. And in your life, you will just work on those 5 cards. That's all you need to become successful in life. This book has the same essence. Let me read few good lines from this book. By definition, applying highly selective criteria is a trade-off. Sometimes you will have to turn down a seemingly very good option and have faith that the perfect option will soon come along. Like any essential skill, it forces you to make decisions by design rather than default. When our selection criteria are too broad, we will find ourselves committing to too many options. So this is, I think, what happened in day to day, where people, they are committing to too many things. Maybe you take a challenge of learning code, and simultaneously you are learning German, and then you're learning Japanese, and then you're learning videography, or you're taking classes in photography. But you don't have that much time. You don't have that much resources. So what you'll do, you'll be like a journalist. You'll be doing a lot of different things. Nothing bad in being a journalist, but if you want to attain something, you need to narrow down your focus. So this book talks about that. Highly recommended. The another book I have is Deep Work by Newport. Carl also has a podcast, very interesting podcast, and he talks about productivity, time box planning. So this book is mostly about time block planning. So what he usually talks about in this book is, so we have so many distractions. So how can you get things done? So let me find some good lines from this book. The key to developing a deep work habit is to move beyond good intentions and add routine and rituals to your working life, designed to maximize the amount of your limited willpower necessary to transition into and maintain a state of unbroken concentration. You have finite amount of willpower that becomes depleted as you use it. If you deployed smart routine and rituals, perhaps a set time and quiet location used for your deep task each afternoon, you would require much less willpower to start and keep going. So he talks about rituals and routines and how they help you to make a life where you don't need to do a lot of different things, and you don't need to worry about a lot of different things because you have these rituals. Let's say you wake up 6 in the morning, and then you do meditation for 15 minutes, and then you make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, and then you work for 1 hour. So these are rituals. You can do them every day, and you will know, just being on autopilot, you will get things done. And you will feel good about yourself because you will be accomplish a lot of things, as compared to if you don't have a ritual or routine, then you'll be doing things when it interests you. Let's say you in the morning, you wake up, let's read a few chapters of the books, and tomorrow let's make some videos. You will get things done, but you will not have that efficiency what Carl talk about in this book. So if you're struggling with that, I would highly recommend read this book. The last book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. I don't have the physical copy of that book, but it's written by the same author. So in that book, Carl's talk about gaining skills. So this is really important if you're especially wanted to become a developer, a software engineer, because you need to acquire those skills so that you can apply for these jobs. They will interview you and ask you those hard questions. So you need to have those skills. You will have a lot of opportunities, and you can make a decent money for you or for your family. So rather than hacking the system, cramming things, you should focus on learning things. And that book really helped you. That book really helped me. So I would highly recommend that as well. So these were the top 5 books I would recommend to anyone who wants to start their coding journey, or who wants to start anything new in their life. So that's it from my end. I'll see you next time. Thank you.